sunlight showed ahead. They were almost out of the forest. Once on the open plain, the stag could easily outstrip lumbering Beastman. Tila raised herself and turned to see how close their pursuer had come. And in that moment, the stag lowered its head and ran beneath a low, overhanging tree branch. The branch caught Tila across the shoulders, and she was swept from her mount to land, stunned, on the ground, while the stag raced on its way in terror at the approach of Beastman. Beating his chest in triumph, Beastman picked up the unconscious warrior goddess and slung her across his shoulder. Then he set off to seek his lord, Skeletor, and claim a reward for such a valuable prize. As Beastman loped across the dusty plain of Eternia, a speck appeared high in the sky above him. Was it a bird? A cruising wind raider? It was Stratos, dried out and desperately seeking Tila. Now his sharp eyes easily picked up the movement of Beastman far below, and he quickly saw that the limp bundle on his shoulder was the warrior goddess. Unaware that he had been spotted, Beastman hurried on. Stratos banked away. There was only one person who could help Tila in her plight. Stratos used every ounce of air power in his body to reach He-Man before it was too late. He-Man, in his guise of the weakling Prince Adam, saw Stratos approaching. He raised his sword and cried,
"By the power of Grayskull!"
changing into He-Man even as he spoke. Quickly, Stratos told his story.
"This is the evil work of Skeletor,"
said He-Man.
"Where was Beastman headed?"
"The Mystic Mountains," replied Stratos.
"That means only one thing,"
said He-Man.
"The Valley of Osgore. Superpower is useless in that place of eternal night and the fiendish Shadow Men. I will need cunning, and my faithful Battle Cat."
Soon, astride the armored Battle Cat and carrying his battle axe and shield, He-Man was traveling swiftly across the rolling plains of Eternia towards the ragged peaks of the planet's high mountains and the smothering darkness of the Valley of Osgore. The sun was high in the sky when He-Man looked into the blackness of the grim chasm where Tila was held captive. In the deepest part of the Valley of Osgore, Skeletor stood before his prisoner, who was held helpless against a stone pillar by bands of pure energy.
"Welcome to the Dark Valley, Tila, warrior goddess,"
he sneered.
"Very soon you may join me in welcoming our dear friend He-Man. It is too bad for him that he is all that stands between me and supreme power in the universe."
"Do not be so sure, Skeletor,"
cried Tila defiantly.
"But I am sure,"
replied Skeletor.
"His may be the mightiest body in the universe, but mine is the mightiest brain. I have conceived a trap in which you are the bait. My slaves, the Shadow People, are the jaws which will snap shut and crush him once and for all."
A Shadow Man slithered out of the gloom and crouched low before Skeletor.
"My lord, the lookouts report the approach of your enemy."
He-Man paused on the rim of the gorge. A winding track led down below the overhanging cliffs, which had kept out the light of day since the beginning of time. Once into that deadly shade, he was at the mercy of the Shadow Men. Their great strength was their ability to see in the dark. But so, like all of his tribe, could Battle Cat. Light meant agony to the Shadow Men, and this was their great weakness. It was with light that He-Man would defeat them. The sun had reached its highest point when He-Man unslung his battle shield. Holding it out, he caught the rays of the sun and sent them reflecting onto the rocks. Mounting Battle Cat, he urged the great beast down the narrow track, all the time holding the glittering metal shield to catch the sun, and sending a dazzling beam ahead of him into the murk of the deadly valley. He-Man's war mount picked its way quietly among the boulders strewing the path. But to the super-sensitive ears of the Shadow Men, the silent steps of the huge cat were adequate. At a gesture from Skeletor, they took up their positions. Gripping crude clubs, they ranged about the stone pillar. Others lined the bottom of the gorge on either side, while the remainder perched high up in dark ledges and crevices, ready to leap down upon their intended victim. Skeletor cast a glance around the final placing of his slaves. All seemed in readiness. Like stars in a black sky, the eyes of the Shadow Men gleamed in the darkness. The sounds of the approaching victim drew closer. Skeletor looked again. 2 larger, brighter stars shone out. A low, rumbling growl came from their direction. Then a great blaze of agonizing brightness leapt at the Shadow Men, and He-Man was upon them. In the terrifying brightness of the sunlight reflected from He-Man's shield, the Shadow Men tumbled screaming from their hiding places among the rocks. Fighting each other in their desperation, they bore down upon Skeletor where he stood beside the captive Sheila and the glowing mentalite crystal.
Back, you cowardly reptiles!
Screamed the Lord of Destruction.
Perhaps this will help to put some fighting spirit into your miserable hearts!
And raising his energy blade, Skeletor sent bolt after bolt of crackling power darting among them. But now, added to the pain of the dazzling light, came the screams of Battle Cat. Mighty paws slashing right and left, the great cat bounded to the attack.
Hold on, Teela!
Cried He-Man as the Shadow Men parted before him, leaving the prisoner unguarded.
And you, Skeletor, prepare to meet your fate.
Skeletor again raised his energy blade, but the scrambling Shadow Men jostled about him in panic, spoiling his aim. He stumbled and was instantly borne to the ground. He struggled to his feet in time to see the precious crystal of mentalite about to be swept from its flat rock, and with a supreme effort, he caught it as it fell. Teela and He-Man watched as the blinded Shadow Men blundered into their evil lord, who held the crystal above his head, out of reach of the struggling mob. Then, suddenly, it was knocked flying from his grasp to smash against the black rocks. In an instant, the pent-up energy in the crystal was released, sending a massive shockwave to the very roots of the Valley of Osgore. The overhanging cliffs split from top to bottom, and the sunlight blazed down. The rock pillar dissolved into fragments, setting Teela free. As the dust settled, the last Shadow Man had vanished. Mounted on Battle Cat, He-Man and Teela prepared to leave the ruins of the valley. But as the last of the dust cloud disappeared, there was revealed a dark figure standing amid the shattered rocks. Skeletor raised his energy blade.
Once again, your meddling has cost me dear,
He cried.
But no one escapes unharmed from an encounter with the Lord of Destruction.
A bolt darted from Skeletor's weapon, but, swift as it was, He-Man was swifter. He leapt to the ground, battle axe swinging ready, and the energy blast passed harmlessly over his head. A second shot was deflected by the shield, and He-Man rushed to the attack. Bolt after bolt crackled harmlessly on the shield while Skeletor backed into a crevice in the rock before the gleaming axe. Once again, Skeletor fired. Once more, the powerful battle shield caught the force of the bolt, but this time deflected it to strike the rock face above the crevice. With a rumbling crash, the rocks collapsed, covering and concealing the crevice and Skeletor. As He-Man and Teela rode out of the Valley of Osgore, the rays of the sun were penetrating into nooks and crannies which had never had until now known its warmth. The poisonous mosses and lichens which draped the black rocks shriveled and died. Teela pointed to a spot high above them. The collapsing rocks had released a spring of clear water, and now it cascaded into a glittering stream to form the beginnings of a river on the valley floor.
Sun and water.
Said Teela.
They will bring the grass and trees and flowers. Soon Osgore will be as fair a spot as any place on planet Eternia.
Yes,
Replied He-Man.
when evil is defeated, good can flourish for the benefit of all.